Hey guys, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make something very exciting, and that is gluten-free hot cross buns. Now, I've been wanting to make hot cross buns for years now and never had the confidence. But during these lockdowns, I've been practicing making gluten-free bread, and it's made me realise how accessible it actually is to make this kind of thing at home. So I thought I would give them a go, and I was so pleased with the results. I've made loads of batches to try and get them right. And now the recipe is finally here, just in time for you to get practicing, because apparently the time you're supposed to eat hot cross buns is at the end of Lent, and that is to signify the fact that you are able to eat dairy again, because they're made with dairy and traditionally you gave up dairy during Lent. So that's kind of where they come from. These have got dairy in them. I haven't tried a dairy-free version, but if I do, I will certainly let you guys know. But for now, I'm going to show you how to make these. They are really easy to make. As you can see, they've got a lovely glaze on the top, they've got the traditional crust, they're lovely and golden underneath that, and they're nice and squishy and delicious, and I cannot wait for you guys to make them and try them. Now, these are best eaten on the day that you make them. You want to give them an hour or so when they come out of the oven for the gums to settle, but after that, break them open, slather them with butter, and they're amazing. They also freeze really well, and if you want to eat them the day after or a few days after making them, I recommend storing them in an airtight container and then either wrapping them in foil and baking them in the oven for a few minutes to warm them up, or you can cut them in half and toast them as well. And if you have celiac disease and you don't already use toaster bags, you absolutely should if you share a toaster. They are a game changer and stop any cross-contamination. So I'm going to walk you through how to make these. They're really easy. The ingredients are in the description down below, along with a link to my blog which has the full written recipe and a printable recipe card. If you give them a go, please let me know, and I cannot wait to show you how to make them. To make my gluten-free hot cross buns, the first thing you're going to need to do is pour some milk into a pan and add some cubes of butter. You then want to heat this on a low heat so that the butter is just melted, and then take it off the heat. You want this to be warm when you add it to the mix, but not hot, so put it to one side while you prepare the ingredients. To a mixing bowl, you want to add gluten-free bread flour, caster sugar, some xanthan gum, some salt, and finally some dried yeast. I use this Allinson's quick yeast, which is gluten-free. I'm pouring in 2 sachets because you want to get a lovely rise on your hot cross buns. And I'm just going to stir this up with a wooden spoon to make sure that they're all nice and mixed together. I'm going to add some lemon zest to this to give it a nice citrus flavour, but you can use orange if you've got this instead. Either will work perfectly. And then I'm adding some mixed fruit and peel. Again, if you'd rather just use raisins or currants, you can do this, but I like to have the peel in there as well. Give it a good stir so that it's all nice and mixed up. And finally, your last bit of ingredient prep. Add a tablespoon of oil to an egg and beat it together. And then it's just a case of waiting until your milk is nice and warm. You want it to be hand hot so it doesn't feel hot, but it feels nice and warm when you pop your finger in. And then pour all your wet ingredients into the dry ones. And now's the time when you're going to need some muscle, so you want to give this a really good stir. But if, like me, this will be the point when you realise you've actually forgotten to add something, which I do every time I make these hot cross buns. So I'm just going to add my teaspoon of mixed spice in there. This should go in with the dry ingredients, but it doesn't really matter as long as it's all mixed in. I thought it was quite funny, so I didn't bother reshooting. So now you're going to give this a really good beating with a wooden spoon. It is going to make your arm ache, and trust me, I know it's different to kneading normal gluten bread, but you want this mixture to be kind of wet and sticky because this is going to produce a nicer gluten-free hot cross bun. So the way that I like to do this is I like to weigh out my mixture. So flour your hands because the dough is pretty sticky and it will stick to your hands, so you might need to keep reflouring them. And then I put my mixing bowl with the mix in on the scales and break off about 120 grams worth of dough. Roll it into a ball and pop it on a lined baking tray. And then you're just going to repeat this with all of the mixture until you completely used it up. You want a couple of centimetres between the balls. It doesn't matter if when they prove they start to kind of squash into each other, because this will get that nice sort of tear effect when you bake them, just like you get in the bakery. And then when you're done, you just want to cover them with some lightly oiled cling film. Make sure the cling film isn't on too tight because you don't want to stop the dough from rising. And then you're going to pop it in a nice warm place to prove for about an hour. And as you'll see in a minute, after an hour, the dough puffs up nice and big. So this is an hour later, and as you can see, The hot cross buns are already looking nice and puffy and they are almost ready to go in the oven. So the first thing I'm going to do is brush them with some egg wash. This is what's going to make them lovely and golden when they come out of the oven, and you just want to make sure you get a nice even coating over all of the puffs of dough. Make sure you don't do this too hard. You don't want to beat all the air out of it that it's got in there now. You just want to make sure it's got a nice light coating. And finally, the all important cross. To do this, you want to make a paste of gluten-free flour and water. And the best way to do this is to add 2 tablespoons of flour to a little bowl and just keep adding a teaspoon at a time of water until it reaches this kind of consistency. You want it to be fairly thick because you're going to pipe the cross on. If it's too runny, it's just going to spread and you'll lose the shape. It can be a little bit thicker than this and you'll get a neater cross, but it's completely up to you. So I'm pouring this into a piping bag. This is a really easy way of doing it, is putting it over a mug. It just means you don't make an absolute mess. And then I'm just going to squeeze it down to the end, cut the end off so that we've got a nice little hole, and it's ready to pipe the crosses on. And the easiest way to do this is to just go across all the buns in one go. It doesn't matter if a bit gets on the baking paper. I tend to find that it's easier to go in one direction and then go across the others. But either way, once you've got your lovely crosses, it's time to pop these in the oven at 200 degrees for about 25 minutes. And as you'll see in a second, they're going to come out lovely and golden brown. So here's my baked hot cross buns. As you can see, they're looking pretty cool right now, and it's just time for that final glaze. So to do this, I've just warmed up a little bit of apricot jam in the microwave, and then I'm just brushing it on with a pastry brush. I like to do this while the hot cross buns are still hot. And as you can see, now I've glazed them and they are looking delightful. So all that's left to do now is to let them cool down. You want to give them about an hour from when they come out of the oven before you eat them. And there you go, gluten-free hot cross buns ready for eating. There you have it guys, that's how to make my gluten-free hot cross buns. I told you they were easy, hopefully you believe me now. I can't wait to tuck into these. The smell is just amazing. Now, you may have noticed a few things. I use lemon zest in this recipe. In the written recipe, I use orange zest. You can use either, and personally, I like to go between the two. I just use whatever I had in the house at the time. I didn't have any oranges, so I used lemons. They work just as well. So whatever you've got, use it. It will both taste amazing. If you like this recipe, please hit thumbs up, please hit subscribe, and leave me a comment down below if you give it a try. You can also tag me on Instagram. I will put all the links to my socials and my blog in the caption down below. And don't forget, there's also a link down there to the full written recipe with a printout recipe card as well. In the meantime, please hit subscribe if you like videos like this and want to see more, and I'll be back again very soon. Bye!